more important than the security that is done physically at the borders, because most of the wars would be led through IT, through the cyber tools rather than the guns and the bombs. Cyber tools have the capacity to disable or to put in disarray huge quantum of systems in a jiffy, while it takes a lot of effort for physical warfare to inflict that kind of damage. Now, this war can be fought at different levels. War can be fought between countries, nations. War would be fought within the country to disable, let's say, services. Disabling services could cause a lot of mess. As you are evolving in the area of e-governance, increasing size of population is going to depend solely on the services being provided through electronically. We're going to have electronic service delivery bill, which is soon going to become an act, and which within a matter of 5 years would almost make it compulsory for every government, state as well as center, to deliver services electronically to the extent that those are possible to be delivered. And these would include services like health services, telemedicine, surgery, a lot of other things. Now, are we really geared to make sure that when we are compelled to deliver services electronically, all our delivery gateways, mobile service delivery gateway, the state service delivery gateway, the national service delivery gateways, are they equipped for the potential threats? As you see, the threats are no more simple of simple breaches of encryption. The threats are becoming more and more complicated. The Trojans, for instance, they go and sit like a friend and try to imitate all that you're doing, and then disable everything when you are least alert about those. How do you think are we, because I am posing this to you because government would be the largest, government should have the largest concern about security, because it will be so easy to just enter a government system and disable or create mess over a very large scale. The services would not be available to lakhs of people suddenly. How are we geared? Mr. Srinath is here, and I'd welcome your reply on this after Mr. Rajiv ji has spoken. So I was looking for you. Why don't you come and join us here? Because I don't think that we can have a final word without cert in, and we have all followed whatever in the governments, whatever cert in and Mr. Gulshan Rai's letters say, without applying our minds to it. So final word should come from Mr. Srinath, but before that I'd like to ask Rajiv ji about how do you see the potential of the threats? What is the kind of threats that are going to arise in immediate future, and how are we geared to cope with those?
Sir, as I just
keep it on. Oh no, yeah, like that. Yeah, it should be fine.
As I just mentioned that we do have guidelines already existing
from certain.
From certain, yes, because until unless we have our guidelines getting vetted by certain, they really do not reach a logical conclusion and a logical end. They are not really notified. That process was done way back in 2010, where we said that these are the low level, the middle level, and the high end threats. There should be different scenarios and different kind of guidelines for these threats. And now to fully equip the top management in states, because now things are coming to a stage where we are talking of the middlewares also actually getting into the delivery of the e-governance projects, the state service delivery gateways, the national service delivery gateway, and of course the major one which is evolving is the mobile service delivery gateway, the very futuristic kind of it. And therefore we require frameworks for security, conformity and assessment of especially the mobile service gateways. So for that, the e-governance security framework policy which we are now working on it actually tends to cover the threats at all the level, be it the application level, the network level, the entry level authentication. Even for the entry level authentication, we have a framework called the e-Praman, where we have said that the authentication to be done at the different level of threat, what should be the level of authentication which need to be followed by a stakeholder, by a user department. So this is very, very kind of dearer and at a very high priority of consideration for the government, that we need to address this issue. Because as we move along and as the networks now grow through an orderly manner of delivery through these established gateways, the frameworks should be in place to address all levels of security at all the levels, at all forms, and also by after assessing the level of threats which are there. So these kind of framework documents and the policy are now being evolved, and I think it's the journey is long, and the matter is fully seized by the government.
Okay, so I think now I'll address this to Srinathji. Do we in certain have a research or system of trying to identify the potential enemies? That's number one. Number two, Mr. Sadanand said that so long as the network is safe, I don't really need to have additional concern about the safety of my own software running on it, as long as it is encrypted. And with cloud becoming more and more prevalent, the safety of the networks would perhaps become the most prominent issue of security. Are we really looking at it with the kind of concern that it deserves? And how do you perceive e-governance particularly as an area where the threats could be evolving in much larger manner in the immediate future?
The question is too big, and there is no digital answer in the form of yes or no. But I will try to convey the signal of confidence with which we are trying to see how we can deal with this problem. Before that, I would like to make a small remark. Our chief guest was modest and humble in saying being an economist and economic subject would be terribly out of place in this. But sir, I must tell you, without economics, security is absurd. The whole game in security is all about economics. We are only making the possibility of intruder that much more difficult. The economics works very fast. In fact, in my common sense understanding, security would mean 80% common sense. Without common sense, there is no question of doing anything. Forget about it. 15% technology will help you. Naturally, there are lots of technologies, and our friend has traveled all over from Canada to tell us how technology can. And of course, we have been using technology right, left, and center. And last 5%, Ram Bharose, aise hi chalega. Don't ever try to cross that. It's very expensive and very laborious. You cannot do that. That's the simplest part of that. But looking from our own preparedness and our own understanding, we are trying to develop an operational picture or a situational assessment of how things are. In the sense, 3 years before, I was being interviewed in Mumbai, 3-4 years before. And then I could walk away by saying that we have a luxury that we don't have to feel too much disturbed about the security issues that are haunting everybody else. Purely because we were not yet into that kind of connectivity that people face other places. And also the kind of broadband or the kind of issues. Like for example, if I am banging my head with my own slow speed connections and things like that, why do you think hacker will also hack into my system and bang his head? It's not there. Simply, it doesn't work, isn't it? But now the whole equation is different. The whole thing is changing. Everything is changing, and now everything is moving into smartphones and handheld devices. Entire e-governance. We are targeting because we have a billion device possibility. Our e-governance is so ambitious that we are trying to aim at and delivery of electronic services on through handheld devices. That's an ambitious plan. Naturally, we are more concerned and we are taking very positive steps. Government always takes elephant steps. Governments cannot take U-turns, isn't it? We have to take a very calculated step. In that direction, we are trying to create a National Cyber Coordination Center, a National Cyber Security Architecture also at the highest level to guide and monitor our directions and our actions also. And the Cyber Coordination Center is going to create a situational awareness and a common operational picture of how things are. And once there are plenty of stakeholders who contribute the information to that. Going from a technical perspective, because this involves the stakeholder perspective and also the technology. We are going to pick up the data from wherever it is possible and look at that. And when we are seeing that, we are looking at the data, we are not looking at the content. We are looking at the traffic. When we are looking at the traffic, we can make a lot more sense out of that. And then we can see how we can help the individual organizations or the ISPs or whomsoever. We could help them in whatever manner that we can. That's one thing. And as I was telling you earlier, we have the cabinet has approved the National Cybersecurity Policy, which earlier there was a lot of English. Now all English has been cropped off, and we have cropped lots of actions in that one. In the sense, it would allow for 20 different initiatives that are possible. 26 different initiatives are possible simultaneously. In fact, we have a piece of advice from the cabinet itself: please don't focus on everything else straight away. Maybe you can prioritize and focus so that we are able to zero in on what is possible to be delivered in the immediate scenario. We are trying to look at how we are able to classify and identify the priority. Fundamentally, it is not possible that you focus your attention on everything else. It's difficult, because if you try to do that, you will not achieve anything. You are spreading your resources so thin that you are not able to achieve anything. So you need a good deal of prioritization that we are trying to identifying the critical sectors that need attention, that require at most intimate understanding of how things should be and how it needs to be protected. There is a National Critical Information Protection Center itself is coming up. It is already born, but it is not officially announced to the public, but it is already functioning. Similarly, when we are looking at the cybersecurity policy, it talks about various means, including securing e-governance services is one of the very critical aspect in that policy itself. Every aspect that we have discussed in our policy leads to a lot of simultaneous initiatives and actions, not only within the government. In fact, when Planning Commission was discussing with us, they were concerned, are we sinking too much money, or are we only government is getting into this one? Now we have got a format in which a lot of public participation is possible, a lot of private sector participation is possible, and it's good that there are a lot of private industries who are showing interest to work alongside the government in making this possible. After all, this is a common cause. And all that I have said to you till now, it simply does not mean that we can be secure. Because all that we do, it is only 50%. Because the problem does not necessarily have to come from India. It can come from anywhere in the world, because we are in a connected place, so it can come from anywhere. And there is no guarantee that I have a friendly relation with many countries and the problem comes from friendly country itself. It can come from anywhere. So, in fact, our major problem, major assessment and understanding is, barring smaller petty crime and petty cyber security issues, most of the issues that are pressing in this country, or any country for that matter, they come from the legal and technical jurisdiction of that country. It is always from different, because that's how it can be done. The whole transnational character of ICT, it gives credence for. It is anonymous and borderless. So naturally, it's quite possible people can be playing with your assets, playing with your data, playing with your sensitive installations. But we can make our effort much more positive and fruitful by taking steps on our side. But it also would mean that we have to internationally be also, we have to be aware and make sure that we are able to reduce the risk of disruption. That is what we are trying to do. Simultaneous engagement both within the country and simultaneous engagement outside the country is what is needed. So our vision caters to both of these things simultaneously. When we are looking at critical sectors, we are trying to identify what is a low risk area, what is a medium risk area, and what is a high risk area. And once we are able to focus those things, then possibly we are able to attribute our resources properly. This is in a nutshell. As I said, there is no digital answer. We are, this is a roadmap that I can unveil to you, and this would give you an idea of how we can get engaged in this, and we would welcome everybody's participation in this one, and after all, it's everybody's game. We are making a common cause for securing the nation and its assets, and of course, making the cyberspace good for the entire world. We are in a connected world. We cannot be a nuisance. We cannot tolerate nuisance from others. We cannot be a nuisance to others also. So we have a double responsibility. So we are working to handle that kind of double responsibility. And at the moment, this is what I have.
Thank you, Srinathji. Now, before I close, I'd like to now give it back to Mark. The issues of corporate wars are different from the issues that typically governments face for the purposes of security. There are greater stakes in terms of money part of it. There are larger stakes in terms of the growth of that corporate itself. We are watching the war between, let's say, Samsung and Apple, or organizations which are fighting for survival.
Yeah.
How do you think the corporate wars are different from the issues of e-governance that we've discussed until now? And how is the preparedness, let's say, of WinMagic for dealing with those?
Okay, so
Can we have a little silence, please?
I think it's a very good point. Corporate and government face a lot of the similar issues. The job ahead of IT security is incredibly difficult to stop anything in terms of threats. I was at a recent event in New York, which was with a bunch of CISOs from a lot of the large banks, the NYPD, and they proceeded to have one of the vendors, actually one of their key executives is a hacker. So what he proceeded to do was hack the New York Times right in front of us on the screen, right? And I was pretty blown away. But what we don't understand is that hackers, you don't have to be a super coder now to hack, right? There are actual packages that are put together to enable you to hack, right? So IT security is in a position where, just like your house alarm, right? You can put the house alarm on for your house. It doesn't stop anybody breaking in. It just lets you know when they break in, right? So the key thing for IT security is to know when somebody's in and get them out, right? Now, in terms of corporate to government, right, which I think is a very good point, when corporations have a breach, and by government legislation, they have to make that breach public, right? Number one, there's a fine. Well, fines don't really affect corporations. If they're fined a few $1 million and they've got $1 billion profit, it really doesn't affect them that much, right? But when they have to put out a public statement that their systems have been breached, like I mentioned before with Sony, right? The number one thing that any corporation doesn't want to lose with its customers is consumer confidence, right? Do I trust that company with my data, right? We all trust the government with our data. We don't have a choice, right? We have to give our data to the government. We don't have to give our information to banks, insurance companies, right? Now we live in a world where everything's online. You can purchase everything online, right? Is your credit card information safe? I mean, everybody's had their credit card stolen and hacked, and somebody's using your credit card halfway around the world, right? So for the corporate world, IT security becomes more and more and more important, right? And it becomes important on how they deal with it, how they address it, right? And making sure that they have everything in place. So for instance, using our technology on their laptops or any encryption on their laptops is a mandatory regulation. If that laptop is stolen and it's encrypted, they don't have to make a public statement, right? They don't have to pay a fine, right? Because they know that data is secure, right? So it's not breached. If that data is not encrypted, one of our very large customers, I'll call them a manufacturing company because it was on the slide deck, manufactures a global product. They're a global brand. Everybody knows who they are. A laptop was stolen with their latest design on it. 2 months later, their competitor brought out that exact design. Right? So for corporations, consumer confidence is important. Intellectual property is also very important. Yep. Right? So it is a different dynamic than government, but just as equally challenging on both ends.
Thanks, Mark. Well, as the globe is getting increasingly connected, the issues of security are going to become more and more dominant, and not only in the lives of people, corporations, but also of nations. I don't have any doubt that soon we would go through the times when United Nations and multilateral organizations would be engaged with developing conventions on controlling together the issues of cyber crimes and cyber terror. More so because no national government by itself is going to be competent to deal with this kind of a threat at an insulated level. And the issue would have to be like in 19th century, United Nations was, the League of Nations was occupied with evolving conventions and international laws about the war games, the war crimes, and things like those. I'm sure that the coming decade and coming 50 years would see multilateral agency like UN fully engaged with getting the countries united, not only to make them behave for each other, but also to make sure that they make their subjects put to crime if they are engaging in cybercrime and cyber terror. In Hindi we say, tu dal dal, my path path. So it is something like that. But the only thing is that the cyber criminal doesn't invest an iota of the money that we invest in dealing with it. The financial investments on the two sides are sometimes quite skewed, and that is perhaps one of the factors which keeps organizations like CERTAN on its toes all the time. Well, with that, I'd like to thank each of you for the contribution you made, and to you all who engaged yourself with this discussion. I think in the end I should give one opportunity to any of you who would like to raise a question. Anybody who has a question can raise their hand and address it to any particular member of the panel. Can you give the mic? Okay.
Hello. I have a question. This national I forgot that policy.
E-governance program.
Cyber security policy will be a part of the IT Act 2000 Amendment 2013 or what?
Srinathji.
No. It is not part of the Act. In fact, the policies and strategies give way for actions like having an enabling legal framework, enabling technology activities, and like that. So it's not part of that. It's separate. It's a government's blueprint of how it thinks and how it should progress, and how, because it's a public domain policy statement as to how we are preparing ourselves and how would be handling security as an issue.
Would you like to elaborate on, do we have a law for cyber crimes? Are we going to make penalties and punishments?
Oh yes, it's
more
already
more
there.
Severe?
Oh, it's already there.
Yes.
IT Act 66, it's already
if it is
there.
not IT
Cybercrime is very comprehensively covered in the IT Act, so there is no need, and it is quite comprehensive as of now.
What are the maximum penalties for cybercrime?
Yeah, you have up to 5 crores also.
That is under
And
IT Act
it's
itself.
IT Act, and the IT Act is already
we act
provided.
as adjudicators, and
It's already
nobody
provided.
has, that is Section 43 of IT Act.
Section 43.
Yeah, but what
it's
about
already provided.
any other independent law?
No, even otherwise also, whether it is
as IPC or...
No, IPC we are trying to harmonize what exactly the provisions in IPC as far as, because that's one of the contention that has been there, that the quantum of punishment in IPC and
Yes.
quantum of punishment
very
in
low.
IT Act, they vary slightly, but this is what that has been accepted as an act. So if there is anything that is required, possibly we have to wait for the wisdom of the Supreme Court to see how we have to.
Okay, yourself.
So my
Can you identify yourself? Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
Right. So my name is Sachin Singhai. I represent Cyber Shield Technologies. And my question is extensions to his question. So is there any international protocol is present which will cover the cross-border cyber terrorism, cyber warfare, and the cyber crimes? So everything is on rise, cyber crime, cyber war. So of course, if they talk about all the countries and talking about the Asia Pacific or maybe Asia or targeting any of the other continents in place. So is there any international protocol which is binding to all of the countries to cooperate with each other for all of this cyber terrorism, cyber warfare?
Digitally, no. That's why we are trying to work. In the sense, forget about the protocol. We have not even have a common terminology. Like, for example, in our country, we use information security and cyber security in a manner that we have understood and interpreted from the international vocabulary. But different countries view it differently. Like, for example, Russia doesn't recognize cyber security at all. They have information security as the terminology in their entire context. And this is one of the major contentions in our UN meeting itself, because our terminologies are different and our way of interpreting things are different. So we are zeroing in on how do we have to a common understanding of the issues and the interpretations. And then onwards, we are identifying the possible minimum cooperational measures, because we have to increase the confidence between the nations. Once we increase the confidence between the nations, we can reduce the risk. Possibly, I cannot even guess when we can come back with a protocol for, but norms of behavior in cyberspace is a major requirement, and that is being addressed at a very different level.
Well, friends, thanks once again. And with that, I think we'll wind up this session. Thank you very much, all you participants.